Hey, listen to Wrestling Roundup on FreeFM and ArrowFM. As always, I'm Grady, and live on Skype we got Josh.
Hey!
So we're going to start off talking about a certain someone that we don't get to talk about too often on this show, and that is our Universal Champion. He still exists.
Yeah, and the entire show was based around him, and it was actually a really good show.
We got to see probably more of him than we've seen in the last 3 months. But I agree with you in that it was a good show. Every bit of his segments meant something. And I know that's because they've kept him off, but the end does not justify the means.
Yeah, I just enjoyed any time they went back to him, that they, every time he had a different outdoor magazine every single time. that was the thing that I picked up on. When
I got a feeling those were all from his home as well.
Wouldn't surprise me.
But essentially, Brock Lesnar, he's being Brock Lesnar. He doesn't want to play with Reigns. He wants to beat people up. He wants to beat up Kurt Angle, and he wants to beat up a certain man in a suit.
That's also Kurt Angle.
That is a fair call there. A second man in a suit. One that means a little bit more for his character, I guess.
Polly. Well, we'll have to see where they go with this. If it creates either a situation where he has Paul portrays him, or if it's just one of those things where they're making you think that's a possibility.
Well, they've definitely made me think it's a possibility. It's enlightened me. I'm now looking at it. I'm thinking that could happen. That could happen. Obviously, the internet would love it if it happened, because at the moment they're exploding. I've actually heard the internet think that they should put Paul Heyman with Roman Reigns.
Roman doesn't need Paul, though. And honestly, Heyman isn't that special as a manager anymore.
You just stabbed everybody. Right in the heart, in the feels.
Tell me that one person in the last 10 years besides Brock Lesnar that he actually benefited by managing.
Oh, you're twisting the knife.
And do
Ryback
not include
says hello.
CM Punk, because CM Punk was already a success.
Well, Curtis Axel, he's the Raw Tag Team Champion.
Yeah, after being with The Miz, before that being a jobber for 4 years.
Yeah, well, Ryback is having success. I actually don't know what he's doing. I'm out of ideas. Cesaro? Maybe?
Not when he was with him.
Yeah, I feel like this is brought up a little bit, quite a few times, It's always, Brock Lesnar is a Paul Heyman guy. But when you boil it down, Paul Heyman might just be a Brock Lesnar guy.
Which Brock reminded him.
Yeah. I would like to see something fresh with Heyman and see what we can do with him outside of Brock. I feel like there's cases where you look at it and you're like, Curtis Axel was never going to work in that sort of role, coming out of nowhere and then jumping in. It's not the B team gimmick. You can't go from jobber to champion via Heyman. The Punk stuff obviously doesn't count, but to be fair, I don't think it alleviated him too much more than he already was. And then when you look at the Cesaro stuff, it just sort of kept him around a little bit. It seemed almost like a hitting pause. We need to do something with Heyman so we don't forget he exists.
Yeah, honestly, the Cesaro being a Paul Heyman guy was something to appease the internet, and then that entire situation just killed everything that they had done with Zeb and Cesaro, which was actually working, as odd as it was.
Yeah, I definitely agree that other than Brock Lesnar, Paul Heyman has not had much success, but I feel like he hasn't been set up for much success when it comes for non-Brock Lesnar enterprises. So I'd be willing to give him one more shot if we're giving him a decent set-up shot and kept away from Brock Lesnar, not just as a stopgap. But that'll never happen.
And Roman as a heel wouldn't need Heyman. Just let him just go off on the fans, and that will be enough.
I feel like the phrase "they'll eat it up" is really apt here. We should probably stop talking about Brock Lesnar. I know it's an oddity, but we've got other things on the show to talk about, okay? The Revival managing to beat the Leaders of World.
Yeah, we're definitely on the verge of doing something with the Revival. What? We don't know, but the question will then be, will they get hurt before we can do that?
No, don't you bring that upon them. Don't you bring that evil in here. They will be perfectly fine. If they do not get injured, where do we see this heading in the futures?
Them holding the Raw Tag Team Championships at SummerSlam.
Ooh, that's a swift change from B Team all the way.
Yeah, but it makes the B Team a transitional champion, but it gave them something to do.
True.
And that honestly isn't a bad thing.
I don't know what's next for Hardy and Wyatt. I can't think of anything. You know, they've had their feud against each other, then they teamed up, and then they did their thing. They had the belts, they dropped the belts. It doesn't look like they're getting them again anytime soon. I don't see where to go with them.
There's gotta be one last thing.
What do we got?
The Leader World versus the B Team in a Hardy compound match.
Maybe.
That could happen after the B Team loses the tag team titles, though.
Okay. Maybe lose them because Bray Wyatt and Matt Hardy interfere? Set it up a little bit?
I was thinking a triple threat match at SummerSlam.
That also works. Although we've already got a triple threat, but we'll get to that. Apollo Crews, or should I say Titus Worldwide versus the Authors of Pain, but Apollo Crews, specifically on this night.
I'm sorry, what do you do?
He beat one of the Authors of Pain. I know it's really hard to remember when anybody in Titus Worldwide actually does anything. But,
especially Apollo Crews.
No, Mr. Should have stayed in NXT a little bit longer is memorable, okay?
I'm sorry, I forgot all about it when his big brother showed up.
Yeah, they took Apollo out of the oven a little too soon. It seems as though we're heading Titus Worldwide versus Authors of Pain. I'm assuming this is just to delay the Authors of Pain's eventual title feud where they'll be heading. But hey, I'm sure they'll put on fine matches. And Titus Worldwide's fun, right?
Yeah, I still feel bad for Dana Brooke, though.
Yeah. She's having fun, but she's not wrestling. At all. But who is wrestling is Alicia Fox, and she defeated Natalya.
Yeah, and next week we get a free TV match for Ronda Rousey against Alicia Fox.
How long is Fox lasting?
I'll give her 2 minutes.
I'll give her 27 seconds. Let's see what happens. Yeah, sorry, Alicia. Your arm is not going to survive.
She might yank it off and beat you to death with it.
But someone who did manage to survive. Our little buddy Jinder Mahal. He's on the list of people who have defeated Braun Strowman. Short list.
Countouts for the win.
Countouts still count. In the record books, Jinder Mahal beat Braun Strowman.
Yeah, it was really just to further the feud between Kevin Owens and Strowman. I like the idea of Kevin Owens coming out to steal the briefcase so it can't be used before the match.
It makes so much storyline sense in that he wants that briefcase, so he really doesn't want it to be used. It's all too logical. It makes total and utter sense. So I'm still looking forward to their match. I see it's listed as if Strowman loses by any means. So I'm going to assume that's an official rule update.
I have not heard this.
That's a Wikipedia thing. I am currently going to WWE.com to confirm. So I will catch you up in about 30 seconds. I'm reading this so quickly that I'm losing my spot. I do not see official mention here at all. So I'm going to say that this is just one of those Wikipedia edits. Damn you, Wikipedia. Why do I believe you? It makes sense, though, if that was where they were going, in my defense. But they are not, as far as I can tell, unless I've missed something. Let's move on from my ineptitude and instead talk about Elias and Bobby Lashley singing a duet.
Yeah, it was definitely fun. I know they had done something on a house show, so wasn't that surprising.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's definitely looking like these two are about to feud, since Bobby Lashley obviously is not going to be facing Brock Lesnar.
So it will be one-on-one, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
At this very moment, it looks like it will be. That is all I will commit to. Yeah, I wouldn't mind Elias Bobby. The problem is that I'm still so high on Elias at the moment, and I got a feeling if Elias versus Bobby was the feud, that they would let Bobby win. So I'm a little concerned there, but I'll have to see how it plays out. You know, I'm not going to judge it before it happens.
Yeah, but I think Elias is the type of heel that losing a feud or two is not going to hurt him that much, because he can still get his heat back, and he'll still have support.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully. And we're about halfway through, so the last thing on Raw, Sasha Banks, Bayley. It's really where we were heading with this, right? This is still the direction we're going.
Yeah. For now, we have, and I hate this name, the Boston Hug Connection.
No, it's a great and imaginative name where nothing of the sort has ever been used before. There's never been a connection.
If you're going to rip something off, why not just go like, since Banks and Bayley, go with the Fresh Prince of Hugtown.
Nice. How long were you brewing that lovely name?
I came up with it immediately.
Assuming these titles that I am still going to assume are going to be announced for WWE Evolution, I see here also that all of the women's championships will be on the line at the show, including the Raw Women's title, the SmackDown Women's title, the NXT Women's title, the UK Women's title, and also the Mae Young Classic Tournament final match. So assuming you add the women's tag team titles, that's 6 titles. That's a lot of titles. Although the Mae Young Classic doesn't really get defended, it's more of a trophy, but it's still a title. What I'm saying is that Evolution looks to be good.
A big show.
We also got a whole lot of new announcements for people in the Mae Young Classic. We don't have time to run down a lot of them. Just know that there's a lot of them. And some of them quite well known. Maybe next week, or closer to the event, we have time. So that's all we got time for Raw. We're going to head over into our song and then into SmackDown on the other side. The song this week is Too Cool's theme, chosen for a specific reason due to Grandmaster Sexay, otherwise known as Brian Christopher, passing away this past weekend. under unfortunate circumstances. And if you relate to the story at all, we do urge that there are many hotlines in multiple countries in America, New Zealand, and around the world that you can ring to get help. We're going to choose to remember Grandmaster Sexay by playing his theme for Too Cool. And you're back with Wrestling Roundup on FreeFM and ArrowFM. Grady and Josh, we're on SmackDown. Where do we want to start talking about disappointment? Let's start at the top. Charlotte Flair, she's back. And immediately inserted into the title match. Didn't take long.
No, it did. But was it really a surprise, though?
Not necessarily, no. I'm going to assume, off the top of my head, that we're heading to a Becky versus Charlotte feud at some point in the near future.
Oh, it's possible. I would be really happy if they turned Becky heel, because that would give her something different, something new.
Yeah. I feel like we just so perfectly line up to a you come back and steal my opportunity and my spotlight storyline. And Carmella, is it fair to say she's run her course?
I would say so. I mean, she's had a good long run. Not Alexa long run, but still a good decent chunk of time.
Please, there's only one Alexa Bliss, okay?
Yeah, there's only one lady that can hold the women's title for more than 400 days.
That's a lot. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Becky grabs the title here by screwing over Charlotte, and that'll set it up, but that's where I hope to see it go. I'm with you. We've seen Charlotte Flair as a heel. Let's bring Becky in as the bad girl there instead. Make it completely different. I feel like between the two of them, if Becky was going to be the heel, she'd be better off being the champion, having Charlotte try to redeem against her than the other way around. So yeah, that's the way I'll lean. I'll lean Becky wins by screwing over Charlotte, setting up a feud for those two. That's my booking. It's in the books. Write it down. Now, talking about SummerSlam. The Bar, one step closer.
As we suspected would be the case.
Yep, and now they just got to win next week, right?
Yep, against the New Day.
Which is totally going to happen.
Yeah, because I have a feeling Sanity will get involved. That will help them.
I'm good with that. We already talked about it last week, why we would prefer the Bar versus the Bludgeon Brothers. Don't feel like reiterating too much.
Yeah, because right now it doesn't feel like it's time to take the titles off the Bludgeon Brothers. So the Bar is probably the best option. Plus it gives us a fresh matchup we haven't seen yet.
I quite like the Bar. They always seem to put on damn good tag team matches, no matter who they're with. And don't get me wrong, the New Day do as well. But as you said, we've seen the New Day versus the Bludgeon Brothers, the Bar versus the Bludgeon Brothers, something fresh, something new, and by all means should be a good match. So I'm hoping for that. Zelina Vega, in-ring debut on the main roster, taking on Lana.
Oh. Well, that must have been a one-sided affair.
What a way to put it. I would say that Zelina won. It was via a roll-up, continuing the feud along. The obvious mixed tag, if you were going to book it, is CN Zelina versus Lana and Rusev, but I got a feeling it's going to be Lana and Aiden. Just a good feeling.
I would be alright with that. It would be different, and that would allow Rusev to go do his own thing and be a face.
Yeah.
Which 99% of the wrestling world wants. But the 1% is the one that matters.
Of course. I believe in storyline, Rusev asked for some space, and that's why Aiden was at Lana's side. And then this week, Lana confessed that she needed Rusev because he wasn't there. So I don't know where we're going with those three, but honestly, I'd prefer an Aiden-Lana team. As you say, please, Rusev, please go do something. I'm counting on you, Rusev. things are not looking good for Jeff Hardy. The man is just finding himself as the target for everything. Shinsuke's attacking him. Randy's attacking him. Everybody's attacking him. All he's trying to do is talk on the microphone. It feels like Shinsuke and Randy are playing a who can be more sadistic game using Jeff Hardy as their punching bag. And honestly, Randy's winning. Randy's winning by a country mile. So now I'm not quite sure about a Shinsuke versus Randy thing, or whether it's going to be Shinsuke versus Randy versus Jeff. I'm not 100% sure.
Who knows? It's just going to be one of those things we're going to have to find out.
And if Jeff really is injured, he's taking a lot of punishment for an injured man. So we'll see what the future holds for those three. I assume their SummerSlam match will be announced soon. Next week maybe, or the one after it, so we don't have to wait for too long.
Well, yeah, it'll have to be announced soon. Show's in like 3 weeks.
Yeah. They could push it. They could announce it day of. Be rough, but they could do it. Miz, Daniel Bryan, feud's heating up. Pretty much nothing more we can add to that, right? These two were always going to put on a damn good run-up to their match and a damn good match at the end of it. Simple as that. I can't say anything more. Now, there was something we mentioned last week, I believe it was. I don't know if it was on air or off air. The Cruiserweight title being defended on pay-per-views. We jinxed it, we cursed it, we brought it about. Drew Gulak's getting an opportunity at SummerSlam.
And imagine the PowerPoint presentation after he wins the title.
I'd also like to note, at this moment, not on the pre-show. I'm sure it will be, not at this moment.
They get to step up from not even being on the show at all.
Yeah, it had been a while. Yeah.
Greatest Royal Rumble.
Yeah. I'm perfectly fine with it, honestly. I would be happy if the Cruiserweight title or a Cruiserweight match was on every pay-per-view. Whether you want to keep them separate, whether you want to mingle them, that's fine with me. It did feel like they were going into their own little dark corner. So at least we get to shine a little bit of light on them and, prove to the people who don't watch 205 Live every week that the Cruiserweights still exist. And Cedric is putting on damn good matches with everyone at the moment, and Drew also has the ability to put on some good matches. I'm pretty sure these two guys have had many good matches themselves. So it'd be interesting to see what exactly they manage to pull out, presumably on the pre-show of SummerSlam. They quite often end up on the pre-show, but I feel like that's because they're the exact kind of match you want on the pre-show to sort of get people interested and entice them in.
Them hyped for the show.
Yeah.
That's the reason why the Cruiserweights always started the pay-per-views for WCW to get people hyped into the show.
Yeah. It makes full sense. We just don't use them on the pay-per-views with WWE as much. But now that we have a presumably 5-hour show, not including the pre-show, to fill up, we have room. I do love how the poster for SummerSlam, by the way, is Reigns, Lesnar, and Rousey, Alexa. I know those are the two massive headlining matches, but still. Come on, where's the SmackDown?
Well, when you compare it to those two matches, AJ and Samoa Joe isn't exactly on the same level in terms of importance. It's still a great match. It's going to be a great match.
If the other two were A-level matches, I'd put Styles and Joe at an A-. They're not top two.
That's a little bit of difference right there. That's the reason it's not on the poster.
I am fully understanding of the fact that Carmella, Becky, Charlotte, or Carmella, Becky at the time is not on the poster. That makes sense to me. The only other one you could add is Styles, Joe, and I'm sure that would blow out the poster. Honestly, importance-wise, I'd probably put Braun, Kevin afterwards.
Yeah, right now, the only SmackDown versus Raw SmackDown match that might have made the poster, but it hasn't been announced yet, would be Daniel Bryan versus Miz.
Yeah. At the moment, SmackDown's offering to SummerSlam is actually quite weak. Because at the moment announced, they have Carmella, Becky, Charlotte, the Bludgeon Brothers versus probably The Bar, and then the world title match with Styles and Joe. Not the greatest selection of matches in the world.
And that's, but we'll more than likely get Miz versus Bryan.
Yeah, in some form of Nakamura, Orton, Hardy. So, I'm hoping. I've got high hopes for Miz Bryan. Snatch the show away for SmackDown, for the Blue brand, and we'll see what happens with them. But I believe SummerSlam is, August 19th, 20th here in New Zealand. So that is 2 more weeks of show. 2 more Raws, 2 more SmackDowns, and then the show. So let's see what happens in those 2 weeks, because we're out of time. It's been great talking to you.
Bye.
Visit our Facebook page, facebook.com/WrestlingRadio, or Twitter page, twitter.com/WrestlingRadio, and we'll see you next week.